best action often is just taking action.
Yeah.
A lot of guys get stuck in.
Sorry, no, you're right. You just got to do something, don't you?
Yeah, a lot of guys get stuck in analysis paralysis where it's like, well, this guy tells me this and this guy tells me that. Well, how about you just do and go from there?
Do something, right? Pick a direction, go and see how that will change along the way. But I think, another thing is that so many guys appreciate the opportunity to be part of the group that they almost step up to the mark, right? Like if you put some faith in someone that they're going to be a good addition, they generally step up, right? It sometimes takes that you got to put your trust in them, saying like, I'm going to add you to the group, man. Give it a go, and then people rise to the occasion and actually get involved and sort of show their best side, I suppose.
They get that. Luckily, more people are good than bad because when you give them that opportunity, like you said, they want to stand up to the plate where it's like, hey, they put this faith in me and it is up to me to perform, so to say.
100%. And I think that can be really powerful in social life as well. Because it's like if you meet someone new and you assume the best in them, they're going to reveal their best side to you, right? And they're going to generally behave in that way, at least towards you. So I think that's probably quite a good pro tip to start with. But yeah, I just want to welcome everyone to the stream for the few people that are watching now, and everyone watching on repeat. Hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and subscribe to Jack's as well. It's Jack Napier Knows, right? Your channel.
That's my Twitter handle, and you can find me on YouTube by typing in Jack Napier Red Evening. That's my flagship podcast, and that's how you find the channel.
Awesome. I'm just going to add that in the chat in a second. Cool, man. Well, as I said, it's a total pleasure to have you here. And today we're going to sort of talk a little bit about life purpose, and particularly as it relates to women, because I think there's some interesting parallels and some interesting contradictions here.
Correct.
Yeah, because I think obviously life purpose is something that most guys that are even lightly involved in the self-development scene are very interested in knowing what their life's purpose is and finding that out. I have some, I don't know if controversial is the right word, but I have some, I suppose, alternative ideas about life purpose, because it's something that I struggled a lot to figure out. And I spent a long time dwelling in analysis paralysis, thinking about, well, what direction am I going in? What's my one true calling? And it took me a few years to sort of come to the conclusion, in my mind at least, that for me, that wasn't the most productive way about going about my life's purpose. The most productive way for me was to set some goals, even if they're not, the most important life goals I can imagine, and just head in their direction, right? The way I sort of look at it is like a mountain, right? You can look at a mountain in two ways. You can either look at it as the huge, enormous, vast mountain in front of you and thinking about, oh God, how long is it going to take me to get to the top of there? And, where am I going to sleep? And what if my clothes get wet? And God, it's going to be tiring, isn't it? Or you can say, I'm going to the top of that mountain. In order to do so, I have to take some steps. So I'm going to head to the top and start taking steps.
Yeah.
And for me, by just setting not arbitrary, but almost temporary goals, just something I want at the moment, and then heading in their direction, through that journey are revealed more solid goals or different goals in the future. And for me, it's just about getting moving, isn't it? It's just about taking that action and seeing where it leads you. For me, it's impossible to figure out what my life's purpose is, so to speak, because I almost feel disingenuous if I give one answer to that, because I know that certain days it fluctuates and in the future it might change. I'm not this sort of fixed entity. We're all fluid, aren't we?
We are. There is no one answer to it, really. And you bring up a good point about the mountain. You can look at that thing and be like, okay, that's way too big. Or you can think to yourself, okay, I want to get there, but before I get there, I need to get to the foot of the mountain first. And then after that, I need to get 5 meters higher. And after that, I need to get 5 meters higher, and so on. That's the same thing I do with audiobooks. Now, I'm recording right now a trilogy, which in total is about 350 pages. Now, that sounds like one hell of a job. And it
Yeah.
is. But before I get to 350, I need to get to 10. Now, 10 isn't that hard. It takes about an hour, hour and a half, 45 minutes of a very good day. But still, 10 first. Now, after that, 10 again, 10 again, 10 again. Cut it up into small pieces. A while back, I made a video on my channel called Goals Are Stupid. And the reason I say that is because you don't want to rely on goals. You want to rely on systems more. And how I got to that conclusion was, well, I do strength training. And I always wanted to squat 315. And I tried it, but I was too soon. So it failed. But then I thought to myself, what am I doing? This is stupid. And this is harmful even, because squatting 315 when you can end miserably. After that, if it goes all wrong, you will never be able to squat again. But before that 315, I wanted to be able to squat 225, 270. And that worked. And I thought to myself then, why wouldn't 315 work if I put in the same plan, where it's just keep on training and become better than you were the last time? So that's what that video is about. Instead of focusing on the whole reaching the goal thing, focus on keep going with what you're doing, because you'll reach that goal eventually. And even after you've reached that goal, it's not like you're going to stop. Because that's the epiphany I had. Even if I was able to squat 315, I'm not going to quit. It's like, oh, well, I did that. I'm going to stop exercising, I guess. That's not how that works. And that's why life purpose doesn't really have a single answer, because it keeps going.
Yeah.
Because it is a mixture of multiple goals set into place with systems, which just keep you going. Because people won't quit. Same as, let's say, with dating. You want to have always dated a model or whatever. I don't know. What's hip with the kids these days? TikTok actress? I don't know.
Yeah, well, they're all the same thing now, aren't they? They just blur into one social media influencer stereotype.
Something like that. And let's say you've had that. Well, you break up. What now? You're going to stop dating altogether because, well, I've had the TikTok, Instagram ass model. Yeah. No, I mean, you're human. You're going to continue after that.
Yeah. And even pertinent to that point as well, it's the idea that you people sort of chase that TikTok model or whatever we want to call them, but they're in a position of not having anything right now. So just as you talk about with the 315, first you got to do 235, 270. It's exactly the same thing. It's like guys who are starving can't pick and choose what food they want to eat, right? And like I see it so much with some new clients of mine, where they say like, yeah, I know my own value and I want to have the most beautiful women. And I think, great, well, that's fine. But what are you getting right now? And they're like, oh, I go on a few Tinder dates. It's like, man, you're going to have a problem. I can predict this already because I've seen it too many times before. You're going to be more picky than the guys that are doing really well and going out all the time and crushing it and learning and getting better. You're going to be more picky than them. You're going to see girls that they would approach and you're not going to approach her because you're going to find the flaws as sort of defense mechanism, as a sort of excuse and a way of avoiding taking action. And I understand it because I've been there before, and it's easy to slip back there. But I think it's relevant with women as well. You shouldn't be just, saying this is what I deserve, this is what I should be doing, that's all I'm going to go for. It's like, no, get involved, get stuck in, get the experience, go through the process that everyone else had to go through. And you'll find yourself improving, right?
And I think it's funny that a lot of guys are so focused on looks. Of course, we're men, we're visual and things like that. But when you're experienced, a pleasant 6 is a hell of a lot nicer than any 10 in the world. I've had, I dated, quote unquote, she did modeling gigs. Absolute brat.
Yeah.
Unhandleable, always late, always had some excuse. Then she was here for 2 days and whatever, and you bang and you do your thing. And after that, she's gone for 2 weeks, whatever. But then I dated a girl who didn't have a modeling career or whatever. Always nice, always kind, always on time. What do you want to eat? I've got dinner ready. You name it. Now, as long as she's thin has long hair and is nice, I'm fine with it. And not a complete butterface. I mean, let's be honest here. But as long as a couple of physical points are there, you won't hear me complaining. But yet, for some guys, it's always, oh, I want the 10. Well, what makes a 10?
Yeah.
What makes a 10? What's even the difference between a 9 and a 10? I can't tell you. I really can't.
No. Well, I think most of it, Jack, is this. It's a self-validation process, right? It's like people want the best-looking girl because they believe that the best-looking girl only goes for the guy who is the most attractive guy, or the most impressive, or the best guy. And so guys subconsciously, I don't want to say using because it makes it sound all woke in a way, but a lot of guys literally use the validation that they get from attractive women as a way of self-assessing themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a way of self-assessing. And this is so problematic because you're letting someone that was born a certain way with certain symmetricalities and a certain face with no prior knowledge as to her personality, you're letting her be a better dictator of your self-worth than you that knows yourself better than anyone else that's been working on yourself and developing for all these years. You're forfeiting your own self-evaluation to someone who was born with a pretty face, and it's madness, really. But a lot of guys do that, you know. On the other hand, I mean, for me, I have a certain type, right? And when I meet that type, it makes me feel a different way. You know, it may not even be the most conventionally attractive woman, but when I meet that type, that's what gets me going, right? That's what makes me excited. And so I think guys should focus much more on that than classical good looks and conventional beauty. They should be focused on, well, actually, what is it that I go for that not many other people do? And let me think about what type of girl am I interested in, and just ruthlessly pursue that type of girl, right? Because you're getting lost in the white noise by pursuing women who are conventionally beautiful, but who don't actually do that much for you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And what is such a shame, and I was just talking about this on my own podcast, or a show, it's not even really a podcast that much, but what was I saying? Oh yeah, about girls, let's say on Tinder or whatever, when they say, what are you looking for? Or the whole, I don't give up my number that fast. Now, this girl might be the prettiest in the world, but in a different conversation, I've got a 6 and or a 7 who's like, here's my number, when are you free? Now, why the hell would I not go for that enthusiastic, little less prettier girl than for the girl who's oh so pretty, but wouldn't give me the time of day?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, guys get stuck up on those looks and they don't see the opportunities they have because, well, she isn't that pretty. No, but at least she's enthusiastic about you. So you might want to go for that first instead of always, because it's not even necessarily a beauty thing yet, because not all beautiful women are distant. What I'm trying to say is there will be beautiful women who you will find absolutely astonishing, who, like I said before, won't give you the time of day. And there are beautiful women who are enthusiastic about you. But let's say one of them has brown eyes, the other one is blue, and the one with the blue eyes is exactly your type, but that's the one who didn't give you the time of day. And because of that, you're going to ignore the one with brown eyes. Yeah. Which is completely stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid. And I think in many ways, the solution to that is actually, as we're saying, is just to recognize it, right? Like if you recognize your tendency to chase that which eludes you and ignore that which desires you, because we are built to be going for that which has highest value, and we assume that that which is not interested in us is more valuable than we are. But as soon as you recognize that tendency and realize that it's not a science, and it's not the case that a girl who doesn't like you is better than a girl that does. Sounds like someone just threw up in the background, Jack. Is everything all right?
Yeah, that's a roommate.
Let me just check if I've got some sort of charger here. I've left one of my chargers elsewhere, so I want to see if this would do the trick. Right, we're in.
Nice.
Yeah. No, so we're agreed on that point. You should take what you can get at the time, because just like you can't deadlift 315 kilograms when you haven't bench press 250, and it's a meaningless goal in many senses because it's just a number and it's not where you're at right now. It's the same with women. You guys have to start somewhere. You've got to learn. You've got to get momentum. You've got to get back in that flow, right, of being with and around women, because attractive women aren't attracted to guys who are incredibly picky based on arbitrary reasons. They like guys who get lost in the moment. They're interested in women. They like female company. They're confident and they're used to it. And, you know, they're experienced. And that's something that takes time, and that's a process.
I don't even judge women by their looks that much anymore. Of course, I will recognize when somebody's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But is she enthusiastic about me? Does she have that genuine desire as soon as I walk in or whatever? That's what you're looking for. And a lot of guys, like you just mentioned, beggars can't be choosers. They focus too much on women. Where it's like you titled the show, should women be your life purpose? No, absolutely not. Women are a side effect of you having the life you want. Now, some people would say, well, I want beautiful girls. Well, maybe you need to want something else with your life, because women won't pay the bills. Women won't put food on your table, and women won't solve your miserable job if you have one. So focus on yourself first in that case, how you want your life to look. Focus on that, and the rest will come. Of course, you have to go after it a bit, but in some cases, you need to work on yourself more to be able to go and chase it. Maybe you need to free up more time, get your finances in order to get that time. Maybe you need to get your looks in order because you have the idea of, well, hey, if she looks like that, the least she could expect is that I take care of myself. That's how I used to look at it. Where it's like, hey, I think she's hot. Why should I look like a bum? Better work on myself a bit then. And
I agree with
you
that.
You just feel a lot better when you work on yourself.
Of course you do. Of course you do. And I actually agree with that. A lot of guys wouldn't agree with that. Actually, they'd say, like, no, it doesn't matter how I look, as long as I'm the man, as long as I'm confident and I know what I deserve and I have that confidence, then I can get any girl. And it's like, maybe you can, right? Maybe you can Harvey Weinstein your way through, right, and get away with it. But do you want to? Do you want her to be thinking back and thinking like, yeah, he was confident, but God, like, that belly, like,
he couldn't see his own dick.
Exactly. Do you want that? Is that what you want? Do you not want to be someone's good memory rather than someone's next day regret, right? One thing you realize when you start getting good at this is that it is not good. I don't want to say good. It makes it sound like there's some sort of scale on which everyone lies. When I say good, I mean when you get experience, you realize that it's not about the sex, and it never was, right? Some people have a high sex drive and they need to have sex, but that's not what it's about, right? That's like a sort of cherry on the cake. What it's about is, in my opinion, it's the closest thing to some sense of like conquest. And I don't mean that in the machismo way, but I mean conquest in the sense that we've evolved from tribes of people that would sail to another island, fight, battle, conquer, pillage, take a wife, and reap the following day the sunshine waking up on the new land that you've just conquered. And like, thank God that we don't live, not thank God, but like we don't live in such a a dangerous and violent and amoral culture anymore. But we do lack some sense of, this is me going out and doing something for myself, right? And actually winning, doing something that's difficult for me to do, and winning and feeling that sense of conquest. Right?
Exactly. A lot of guys have lost that feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah, real accomplishment. And the more we move into these online spheres as well, right? Like I do, and I'm sure you do, feel some sense of pride that you've been able to build whatever, your platform, your channel. but we've lost the material side of it, right? There's something different about building a boat and having that boat have men on it who sail across and say, this was what I built. Ours is a little more, it's in this online sphere, right? So although it's amazing and it's important and we should be proud of it, it's all online. None of it's tangible and real. And so I think in many cases, what men miss today is some product of their efforts, right? Some object of excellence that they created for themselves. And I think lifting heavy weights is one example, right? You can literally change your body. There's not many ways that you can see the genuine results of what you do. And lifting heavy weights is one way, but it takes a long time. And so it's a very, very worthy thing to pursue, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Oh, no.
I think one of the amazing things about Cold Approach is that it can happen right now, right? If someone watching this says, right, Sam and Jack, enough of this shit, I'm going out to do some approaches, he can feel that right now, right? He can go out and do that action that made his palms sweat and his chest tighten and his voice crack. And then that moment afterwards of pure dopamine, right, that he's earned is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And
I know the feel where it's like you walk up to a girl, you ask their number, you actually got it, and you're like, oh, wait, I didn't die. Oh, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Well,
and
back
more
to
than
work
that, you're like, I fucking did it. Like, I did it, right? It's, you feel like it's an amazing feeling, right? And that over time, when you start communicating differently and recognizing the improvement of it is so, so powerful. But I want to briefly divert us back to the life purpose, parallels, and contrasts, because I think it's a very interesting idea. Women should not be your life's purpose, as you've already stated. That should be obvious to everyone. There was no, there were no spoilers in the title, but that should be obvious. I think the question then is, how can you build your dating/social life around your life's purpose? Or how can you integrate it into a life with a purpose? Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's a good one. I will be very honest. It is a long time ago since I did any sort of day game. I am very focused on what I'm building right now, the narrations with the audiobook, the platform, having financial freedom. I really want to get out of that 9 to 5, and I've been focused on that murderously.
Yeah.
So when it comes to dating, I mean, I'm a man. I have my urges. So I just installed Tinder, and then I went on some research, like what is the best possible way to increase my chances. Now, luckily, I don't look physically bad, to put it lightly. I work out, things like that. Like, okay, but do pictures like that actually work? So I experimented a bit with that. A great article by Black Label Logic, whose audiobooks I did, by the way, shameless plug, has a great article on what pictures work and which don't when it comes to the categorization of what women seek for long-term and short-term. And the leather jacket always comes up with a white t-shirt and some normal jeans. So I just got a good picture of that with good facial angle, things like that. One shirtless picture where you can see that I work out, and one with a dog, because apparently girls dig dogs. Okay, fine. So I just put that in place so that when I'm focused and busy with my work and things like that, that will take care of itself. And every now and then when I'm free and doing things, okay, I'll swipe a bit and blah, 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 blah. Learn a bit of text game, fine. Because I just do not have the time to go out there and day game. Although I do recognize the effort that needs to be put into it. Because now that I'm out of it for so long, every now and then when I actually see in my small hometown a girl who doesn't belong there, because normally they don't walk around here, I get that feeling again of like, wait, approach anxiety. Damn it! Because it is something you have to keep doing. Otherwise, you'll fall back into your old state of being, where it becomes hard to do that again. Because what are you really doing? You're talking to a person in broad daylight. What can really happen to you? Unless she's some mob guy's girlfriend, which, I mean, how big are the chances of that happening?
Pretty big right here, man. Pretty big in Brazil.
I heard yesterday from Troy that something like that happened to Tusk.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had my own run-ins, but I've got some friends in Rocinha, which is the biggest favela in Latin America, and he made it very clear that probably approaching women in the favela is a bad idea because most of the attractive ones are going to be, in his words, owned by one of the members of the traffic. So so one has to be careful where one employs one's skill set.
I can imagine, but here in the Netherlands that isn't often the case.
Yes.
Rarely is the case. So then you kind of start explaining it to yourself, and then you realize that this whole approach anxiety thing isn't what it needs to be.
Yeah,
you're just going up, you say hi. You know what the weird thing is, and this might sound a bit weird for your listeners, but it doesn't always and this isn't necessarily a cold approach, but just let's say giving someone a compliment, it doesn't always have to be a woman. Yesterday I was walking and this guy was standing there, and his style was on point. I mean, by God, just everything was in line, just perfectly. Color scheme, everything looked fresher than hell.
Let me just quickly rename the video "Coming Out the Closet with Jack Napier."
Damn it. Oh no, I've been exposed. No, but seriously, and I just looked at him. I'm like, mate, that's an incredible style you got there. And he couldn't keep face. He was so surprised that anybody gave him a compliment. He's like, oh, why, thank you so much. I'm like, yeah, you're welcome. And he just kept on smiling. Just a simple thing to make somebody's day just a bit brighter. And guys who have trouble with that, just start there. Start talking to random people in the grocery store. I do that every now and then to just sharpen the skills.
Yeah.
You're standing in line, it's boring as hell, and you'll just look at somebody, you start talking about nonsense. But it actually is nothing more than that. The only difference is you find her attractive. So the only thing on the line really is she might say no. Well, she's not the only woman you find attractive, I think.
Yeah, and she's not the only one that will say no. It's going to happen over and over and over again. And there will be victories within that as well. And that's the beautiful thing, is there's no knowing. And for me, this is why I was talking to a client about this yesterday, and he said, like, how do I balance my goal orientation with the right mindset, right? Because the right mindset for this is essentially curiosity, right? He was like, so how do I go out and just want to talk to people and let loose and have fun when I'm so logical and goal oriented? And I said, those two things aren't contradicting one another. Those two things are not at ends, right? Just like we said with the mountain, you've got your goal, it's the top of the mountain. And now what you have to do is go and enjoy each little step that you take, right? For me, the process of approaching women, we won't dwell on here the whole time, but the process of approaching women for me, it is not to try and like get better on the spectrum. You see a guy and you say, he's really good, right? A coach, you say, he's really good. I want to get as good as him, and then try and get as good as someone else. It's all meaningless. The best space that you can be in where women are going to be attracted to you, and not just with cold approach, but in general as a man being attractive, is when you are not focused on yourself and where you lie on some social hierarchy, or where she lies. You are purely curious to learn about other individuals, to explore your environment, to be in your environment, meeting new people, learning new things, treating the world like your playground. You know, kids, when they enter a playground, they see the swings, they see the roundabout, they see the slide, their eyes light up, and they don't know where to go first. They see everything as an opportunity for fun and experience and adventure. And the amazing thing that guys overlook is that is our experience in the world. Look at the architecture around us, the history, the nature, the people, the colors, the sights, all of this incredible stuff around us that we rarely take the time to notice because we're stuck in one of many narratives, right?
It's such a shame. It's something I do every morning. I walk about an hour every morning. That's my time. Nobody touches that. That's mine. I earned that. And what I mean by that is I worked hard to get to the point where I have the freedom to actually walk an hour in the morning without stress.
Yeah.
And the one thing I tend to do a lot, like these days, normally I'd have on some music or a podcast. The last couple of days, I'm going out without earplugs in. And I just look up, look at the trees, the sky, whatever. Just think to myself, like, how blessed am I that I can actually enjoy this small, beautiful piece of nature right now without enduring any stress or whatever. Like, that is one of the most simpler yet beautiful things in the world. We have a deer park around here as well. Every morning I walk past that, just look at the deer, the simplicity of it. Like how easily satisfied these creatures are. Just, hey, I can walk in the grass, I can lie down, I can eat a bit, and I'm done. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yet here humankind is with all the, oh, I want this, I want that. I have a meeting. Oh, Susie didn't like me because Karen said, who cares? Really? Yeah. Who cares? I don't know how long you haven't been in an office, but I can tell you it hasn't changed. It's still as superficial as hell.
Yeah, it's like I think in many ways the traditional way of working is a constant, continuous suspension of disbelief. Essentially, like it's like you're watching a film and you have a moment in the film where you're just like, oh God, like I was getting worked up and none of this is real. This is just a movie, right? And then you're like, oh fuck, let me get back into it so that I can ignore the fact it's not real again, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're watching a film, maybe it's a scary film or a good film, and you have this moment where your heart sinks and you're like, God, none of this is real. This is just a play online. None of this is real. And then you kind of force yourself back into getting lost in the film. And I think in some ways it's like people. And I don't want to shit on people that work in an office and don't like it because, God, like that's a shitty position to be in, and I hope you can get out of it if you want to. But like, fucking wake up, right? Like you're watching the film, you realize it's a film, and if you have that moment, turn the fucking thing off and go outside because you shouldn't be watching the film right now, right? If you're realizing, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. This isn't real. Get outside, go and see what is real. And I think it's the same. People have this suspension of disbelief where they recognize that the better part of their life is slowly leaking out of them. And then they just say, no, get back to work, right? Get back to work. And it's not, that's the problem, right? It's the moment where you wake up, you force yourself back to sleep. And I think we should take those moments seriously, where we realize that our time, our only valuable asset, is leaking away from us. It's leaking away from us.
And it's such a shame because I had this a lot in school even, where I just looked at the curriculum like, okay, what needs to be done for this class to be over? And they had a year curriculum and I did it in a week just to be rid of it. Yeah. But then, you know what the slimy thing was? That teacher then said, you know what? I still want you to come in because I want to know you're here. I'm like, but I did what you wanted me to. I did the work. Here it is. Yeah, well, if it's not fair towards the other students, I'm like, I couldn't care less about the laziness of others. Here I am doing everything you wanted me to within, well, a very short time. And then instead of saying, hey, good job, you're saying, no, I want you to come in every morning so that I know you're here. Get wrecked. Seriously. And then I had some couple of classmates coming after me for like, oh, well, you just want to be lazy and that and this and that. Yeah, I want to be lazy because I did a year's work in 1 week. Like, not really, people. Because the time I then had, I could stick in my personal training thing, my own training. I did a lot of writing back then as well. Yeah. But the time was not wasted. But they thought, and like you just mentioned, like we are not shitting on people who have a 9 to 5, but it takes a different breed of person to escape from it. And that is not to be disingenuous to anyone. Absolutely not. But it takes a whole different way of thinking. Even right now, I have to make that switch where my online income and investments and things like that are taking over my 9 to 5, which actually releases me from what I've always known to be the way to do it. And that transition is so weird. Even for somebody who knows that there are different manners of doing it, going that route really is a very astonishing situation to be in, where it's like, wow, it really is possible. But I knew when I made my first dollar online that, well, it could happen. But now I'm at that what's it called? The
tipping point.
Yeah, now I'm at that tipping point. And it's so weird.
Yeah.
Really
so much of it's belief, man. So much of it's belief. It's just like, it's almost when something goes, when I started making my first sales, real sales, big sale, getting real clients for myself purely out of content that I've generated, I almost took me having to pause to believe that it had happened, right? Because it always seems like, when you're a kid and you're like, yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire by the age I'm 21. Like, I genuinely thought that when I was young. I was like, all I need to do is work. And it's like, yeah, if you worked 10 hours a day from the age of 16 to 21, it's actually possible that you could be. But you're not going to, right? You're going to fuck around. You're going to do other things. And so this sort of childish belief that you think you believe, but you don't really believe. You have no reference for what that would be like. You have no idea how to make, you have no idea about it. That was kind of what it was like for me starting out, right? Like, I knew it was possible and I did believe in the back of my mind, but I had no reference to what it would actually look like. And I couldn't actually believe that people were investing in me when it started happening, because it's just, you have to reprogram yourself to accept that you are someone with something worth investing money in. And that's a beautiful thing, right? It's a beautiful moment to realize that you can just create value, and there's a marketplace for value.
And that's what I kind of meant with life purpose is not something set in stone. I always wanted to be a teacher. Now I'm a bloody narrator. That never popped up even once in my mind when I was younger. Like, people told me I was good at English. I've heard about that, and that I have a certain accent when I do it. People can't say I'm Dutch, or they can't tell I'm Dutch. And now I'm narrating audiobooks in a language that isn't even my first.
Yeah.
And I'm
well,
like,
you have a beautiful English accent. All right, I'll quickly rename it Coming Out with Sam and Jack. You do have a very well-spoken English accent. So I'm not surprised you found that.
I don't know where it came from. I was on, let's see, because when I started out my channel, I did a show about the art of seduction with, not Troy this time, by the way, but with Jonathan from Modern Life Dating. And we end the show and he's like, you do narrations? I'm like, no, why? He said, look into that. You have a good voice. And what I then started doing was looking at the guys in the, let's say, manosphere who had a book with no audio version. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll take his advice to heart. I'll give this a try. So I started narrating the introductions and I emailed them to the authors and just see what stuck. Well, Carl replied back. He's like, well, people have been bugging me for an audio version. Do it.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's how it happened.
Awesome. Yeah, that's how life happens though. You veer off in directions. When you have one direction, other directions open up in front of you.
You need to be able to see opportunities. The best book written on this to this day for me is Mastery by Robert Greene. Because
I thought he'd feature in this conversation at some point.
He always pops up. It's like he's always lurking somewhere. But those books are just amazing. I didn't like the Laws of Human Nature that much. It was still good, but it wasn't Mastery or 48 Laws of Power. And to me, 33 Strategies of War is way underrated. It's a great book. But what I mean to say is, and this will sound kind of cliche, at a certain point in life, you find things you really enjoy doing. You really enjoy doing, but you're not an idiot about it. You're like, okay, I have a stable income, I have my job, but All the remaining time I have, I want to put into that. And then at a certain point, you get to that point where you can monetize it, or people will ask you for your expertise in that certain point, and you see the opportunity where, hey, people are asking me this. Apparently, there's a need for it. I can provide said need. But I'm a greedy capitalist, so you're going to pay me.
Yeah.
And that's how that happens.
Exactly
or people like what happened to me, notice something about you and give you an idea. But you need to jump on that idea.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, it will be worthless.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, luck is where preparation meets opportunity, right? It's like no one is lucky that was not or had not already laid the foundations for that luck.
Exactly.
Right? You create the environment for luck to occur, and then you're aware and you're able to see it when it does arise. And we call it luck, but in almost every case, that person has prepared, right? There was a golfer, I've forgotten his name, but it was one of the best things. People say, you're just lucky, you always get lucky. And he says, well, it's funny that the more I prepare, the luckier I seem to get, right? The more I practice, the luckier I seem to get. And it's just true of everything, right? We put down to luck that which we cannot see the preparation for, right? When we're not able to see what preparations have been laid, what foundations have been laid, we attribute all of that to luck and not to the preparations that allowed for that luck. But Jack, I want to briefly touch on how you balance your life, because I think you're clearly on a path that's suiting you right now, right? And I think a lot of people, especially with the title of life purpose, I think we've already early on we debunked the idea that you don't really just have one simple fixed black and white life purpose. For me, the way that I try to balance my life, and experientially this is the most helpful thing that I've ever learned, is taking very seriously the wealth, health, love, what I call the pillars of a satisfying life. Essentially, wealth, your purchasing power and your potential to create more purchasing power, right? Your leverage over what you can have in the world and your potential to have that in the future. Your wealth, your health, your mental and physical health. So lifting heavy weights, improving your body function and body shape, and your mental health, right? Keeping yourself stable and steady and understanding how life generally tends to move in waves and not getting lost in the highs and lows, but riding, the stoic mentality of riding the middle of the wave, right? Trying to balance yourself out. And then love, familial, social friendship, and romantic love. For me, and it's just not just as simple as each one of those, but I actually try to have a 33% split of each of those throughout my day, right? So for the 16 hours of my day, I try to focus on wealth, health, and love in equal measure. And I realize that I'm most productive and most peaceful. I don't want to say happy because it's such a loaded term, but I'm most peaceful and satisfied and successful on my own terms when I'm hitting that balance as much as possible. What do you do for yourself without one fixed and obvious life purpose? How do you find purpose throughout your day? What is the way that you order or format or think about your day and the way that you go through?
That's a good one. I'm not looking at it like you as dividing it up. I always look at it. I found the Stephen Covey way very applicable. The big rock, little rock thing. I read that book years ago, but that was the one thing that stuck with me. I always look at my day like, what must be done? What is the one thing that must be done? My walk. Nobody touches that. That will happen. Physical workout must happen. Always in the morning. So those are the things I always need to do. Luckily, I've got the squat rack right here. So not potentially in that order. Often I train first and then go for the walk, or I go for the walk and then train. What else? With
regard to your wealth and business and everything like that, how do you invest the right amount of time so you're not sacrificing other parts of your life, but you're getting everything done, right?
That is also one of the needs that must be done in that morning. So I do the narrations now. I make sure I narrate at least 10 pages a day. If it become more than that, good. Never less. Always 10. That's a must. So training, the walking, and the narration. 10 pages a day. almost. After that, at least I can take a breather. Like the must-haves of that day have been done. Now, when it comes to wealth, money is time. Not per se time is money. Money is time. Now, I go through life a bit as a minimalist. What do I really need? Clothing, shelter, food. Good. Because I already got the squat rack and everything taken care of. So, food. How much do I spend a month? Okay, got that fixed. Clothing. How many times do I buy clothing? I don't even know. Not even once a year, I believe. I'm very pragmatic when it comes to clothing. Like black shirt fits well, good. Take 5. One trouser that fits well, okay, we'll take 3 in different colors. Good. Leather jacket, only need 1. Just maintenance. Do maintenance on it, you'll be fine. So that's taken care of. Housing. I don't live very big. I have a roommate. This is a house. We share it. I don't care that I don't live big or whatever. Do I have what I need? Yes? Good. And do I need to spend more on it than needed? Then it's not good. No, this is perfect. Yeah. So when it comes to wealth, I look at it, okay, how many years will I probably live? What will my expenses probably be in that time when it comes to my needs, not my wants? And when you have that calculated, you can actually make a pretty good estimate on what you need to survive. And when you've got that covered, then you can look at everything else. Like, what would I like to have? But don't be an idiot about it. What comes first is the actual needs. And by realizing that, the whole early retirement thing becomes a lot less impossible and a whole lot more attainable. But people get carried away with money where it's like, oh, I can buy all this fancy stuff and I can flex my wealth and blah, blah, blah. In all honesty, not one girl ever cared about my income unless they were in a longer term relationship. And even then, the last one I had a long-term relationship with bought me more stuff than I ever bought her. And I didn't even need to ask for it. She just wanted to do that. So a lot of it's the double-sided coin of hypergamy, like the alpha seed beta need. Now, the provisioning side, okay, I mean, in the long run, that might work. But if you're a guy like me, I don't want to commit. I mean, I love women, I absolutely do, but I don't want to commit because I want to be free. So I don't need them to care about my finances. I need to care about my finances, and the only one knowing of my finances is me. So what I do a lot is investing, and not because, oh, I'll become a millionaire one day or whatever. No, at least then that is set in stone. At least I'll always have that for when something goes wrong or whatever. And with wealth, I do my best to create passive incomes. With narration, I do not take set amounts. I always take revenue. I learned this from Sam Bodder, the man who narrated Irrational Male. He told me, never take amounts, always take revenue. And he told me the story about I believe it was a woman who did the narration for 50 Shades of Grey. She took 25,000. That book sold over 1 million. If only she had taken revenue, that woman would have been set for the rest of her life. Now, that might sound contradicting to what I just said, like, oh, I don't care about being a millionaire. I don't. What I do care about is being set for life. Now, some people would say you're a millionaire, blah, 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 you're set for life. But she has made an income for herself that is reoccurring. Without having to do anything anymore. Now she has the actual freedom to do anything she wants. Because will men ever really retire? I don't think so. Even if I get 500 grand, put on the bag tomorrow, I wouldn't be able to retire because I want to do things. I want to
retire again is the 9-to-5ers way of saying giving up, essentially. Again, I don't mean the 9-to-5ers and everyone, but I mean the stereotypical hate my job, all week I go there. I mean, what does retirement mean? Essentially, it means stopping everything I'm doing with regard to my income. right? Now, in my position, in your position, what that amounts to is giving up. Just giving up on everything that we deemed worth our while and worth our time and worth our investment, right? So retirement makes sense from the 9-to-5er's point of view. It's like, well, I want to stop doing this fucking stupid office job and enjoy my time with my kids and family. God, let's retire. This is amazing. But for me and you, what it means is giving up on the projects that we've built. And so it doesn't make any sense, does it?
It's so horrible, though, that they forced people to commute for so long. Where it's like, now with the whole COVID thing happening, it has been shown people could have worked from home decades ago. Well, not necessarily, maybe a decade ago. But they didn't want to let them do it. I have a friend who has a son, 1 year old, very, very happily married, great wife, looks absolutely gorgeous. And he's like, I am so glad I can work from home and watch my son grow.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I got a bit pissed off. Not at him, absolutely not. Because what he said, I mean, I was happy for him, but it kind of made me pissed off that there are people in this world who force other people to commute when it's not necessary and take away from them the joy of family for nothing more than data punctuation or an Excel sheet.
That's true, man. That's a good way of putting it.
I mean, there is evil in this world, and that comes very fucking close.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make... no, but it does. And it's a collective evil more than an individual. Like, I don't think there's any one individual saying, you fucking suffer. I'm going to make you suffer to make my data more easy to track. But it's like when you have a lot of mindless people together, an organization of mindless behavior creates the results which look like evil, right? They create consequences which can easily be at least described as evil looking as we understand evil, right? From the sense of this is much more forcing much more suffering on people than it is good to anyone or any one person. The net suffering is far greater. And so, it's the mob mentality, right? It's like no one takes responsibility. It's the mob. And that's where real evil seems to occur.
And that's what I meant with it takes a different kind of person to get out from it. Like I had in school. All the other students had the same curriculum I did. What was preventing them from doing the same thing I did? Instead of doing that, they shamed me for it because I went against the hive. Like, he's not part of the hive mind. Like, ooh, we can't have that. Nope. We can't have that. One of my teachers actually told me, like, Jack, you are... Oh, no, that doesn't work in English. Damn it. It's a Dutch translation. He said, you are wise, but also a... And this is going to be a very rough translation, by the way. You are wise, but therefore also a wise nose, which is wijsneus, which means know-it-all. Yeah. As in, you know a lot, but that makes you a know-it-all. And people don't like that. And when people are confronted with that, they feel insecure. So the best thing you can do is just lay low. And that's actually what they tell a lot of people. Just lay low. You'll be fine. Well, I don't want to lay low. I really don't. Yeah. And that backfires a lot, in all honesty.
Yeah, man. There's an interesting point on that, right? And this is a comparison of cultures, right? And I was thinking about this recently. And in the West, we have a saying that says, the squeaky tire gets the grease, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And that means that if you say something and you stand up, you get the attention. And so that's a sort of that's the idea, right? It's like this guy was saying, it's a hive mentality. Don't speak up. But actually, we have a phrase in the West that's about saying no. Actually, deep down, the core, in our ancient philosophy, it's like speak up if you have a problem with something. The same equivalent phrase in the Eastern tradition is the nail that sticks out gets the hammer. Right, so which is the exact opposite, which is to conform. So I think it's interesting actually doing cultural comparisons, where in the Eastern tradition they've actually had typically much more of that hive mentality, and in the Western tradition, our early historic origins was in speaking up. It was very early on. It was like, no, think differently, speak up. So it's, maybe we've lost a lot of that after industrialism, perhaps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's what the schooling system was based on, right?
Yeah.
Still 1800s, 1901.
Yeah.
Old system of making compliant workers. That's why I
Yeah.
always giggle a bit when I hear the statistic of women graduating more in college. I'm like, good. You can have it.
Yeah.
Take it.
Take that.
Have fun with it.
100%. Jack, I've got a question that is on my mind, and I think so I'm going to be selfish and I'm going to post my own comment here. And it comes back to, you were talking about it. You were saying, no, it's not for me. Like, I don't want a wife. And it's something that I think about a lot, obviously, with the job I do and with the society that I grew up around, quite an old-fashioned background. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to understand this. We have so many phrases, you know, behind every great man is a strong woman. Oh, one day you'll grow up, you'll grow out of it, and you'll want to find a wife and settle down. And I have never been close to being persuaded by it, but I've been tempted to really deeply thinking about it, and I'm glad that I have. And I have the same response as you do with your hat. I simply personally do not believe that a man is better off for settling down, right? For just creating this unit, regardless of the harmony of the unit, just creating a unit for the unit's sake, right? We should have a family. And the more I look at evolutionary biology, I see that we haven't at any time throughout human existence had a society where people marry for life, settle down for life. We've had, you know, what's called like temporary monogamy, right? Where sometimes people get together and they hook up, but it very, very, very rarely lasts forever. That seems to be some sort of societal thing about political power, right? And political alliances to create a marriage for life that consolidates power between two strong families or two nations. However, it is so encompassing in our society, this idea that, like, at some point in your mid-30s or early 40s, it's high time to settle down and have a family. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, this is going to be blunt. This is going to be very blunt. 2 books to begin with. Promiscuity by Tim Burkhead and The Book of Numbers by Aaron Clary. Of all the people that are married that I know, only one couple is actually happy. The others are fighting, having kids to save the marriage, things like that. No, thank you. Also, because a while back, I got thrown at me that remark of, oh, you never know you're going to meet. Coming from a guy I know who hasn't had as much experience as I did with women, not that mine is so tremendously huge, but still more than he, where I'm like, okay, fine. You want me to settle down? Here's the criteria. Find me a woman who's still slim, doesn't have a useless degree, and isn't 10,000s of euros in debt. Maybe. Then maybe I'll consider it. Who also comes from a stable family and doesn't have a fucking drug problem. All of that.
So those are your criteria. Slim, no useless degree, stable family, no drug addiction.
And no
Project
debt.
Find Jack this woman.
And no debt. I wouldn't.
And no debt.
Like, I know there's a thing in the manosphere saying, well, notch count, blah, blah, blah. In all honesty, I have slept with girls on the first date who I've had a great relationship with.
Yeah.
Considering that, I'm like, as long as I don't know, and she is nice to me, and she sees me as the most high-value guy there is, I don't see a problem with that. Referring to Ryan Stone's quote about that, like, as long as she sees you as the best guy in the world, who cares, like, what happened? Because if it's, like, really detrimental high, you'll notice. You'll notice when it's, like, too high. But a lot of guys saying to you the whole, when are you going to grow up? I always found that a weird projection where it's like, okay, just because you're miserable doesn't mean I need to be. because you're probably noticing I'm not miserable and you don't like that. You don't like other people making choices that you did wrong.
Yeah.
So
it's just a weird. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you, man. Like it's almost like this sense of like I made this kind of scary decision, and like it's you have to make it as well. When are you going to do it? And it's like they're fighting this idea that you might not, and that you might be okay not doing it.
Yeah.
Right. They're sort of, it's just like, no, I will not accept that maybe I've acted prematurely, and I will not rethink this. When are you going to do it to support the idea that I've made the only decision there is, right?
Yeah. It's a man's job to take her debt. No.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. Because at least that's one of the things I run into a lot when I go on dates or whatever, and you talk about schooling or whatever they educated in, art history or whatever. Like, what are you going to do with that?
Nothing.
It's like, oh, well, there are plenty of jobs and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, they're not. And like, I'm a bit of a dick every now and then. So let's say, date, we both know where we're there. We did our thing. And after that, we kind of get back to the whole education part. And then the whole student debt thing kicks in. I kind of like hear them out on it, how high it is and what their plan is. My God, Sam. I mean, if you want to know a real trap, it's the education system.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Trapping people into huge amount of debts, thinking they're worth something, which is such a waste. So I can't really blame the girls on that, because that's the hive mind right now. That's the social, that's the narrative right now. But don't expect me to, quote unquote, step up to the plate because people ruined their lives with it. Because I got out early. I was in college. I dropped out.
Me too, man. Well, I didn't officially drop out. I just started focusing on other things and ignored my degree until the end of university. I never officially dropped out of anything. I just ignored it and started doing what I wanted to do, and racked up debt, but also started.
No, I officially dropped out because of bunch of Marxist teachers with their weird ideologies and proclaiming them in front of the class that had no need for that.
Trust me, history of art is the mecca of woke ideology in the space of education.
I wanted to become a teacher. I went to college to become a teacher, and the professors there had this weird need for Marxist indoctrination.
I know, it's weird, man. It's really weird. It's really, weird.
I just looked at the cost. And because I wanted to be one of those teachers to fight the system and I can change it.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the cost and what was happening on there. I'm like, you know what? Sink or swim, bitch. I don't care. Yeah. Sink or swim. Yeah. You're going to quit right now. You're going to get a job and you'll see what you'll get. But you're not going into debt. So I came out debt free.
Yeah. I just got to do a quick shout out to Jay Good here. This was, I think, one of 3 or 4 other straight men on my history of art course at Nottingham University. So he showed up for the live stream with a woo. So, hey, man, that was worth it, wasn't it?
Ultrasound is a good question.
Will you have less options when you're single at your 50s? I just want to quickly, so I'm going to let you get onto this. This is your question. But I just want to throw something else at you, Jack, that you can come to, which is that I don't see many male role models for men in general and for me as well, who are, let's say, in their 50s or older in age, who are still, I don't want to say still single, like it's the unusual thing, but who are not married, right? Or who do not have, most of the role models we see, they are married with a family. So I agree with you, right? And I get irritated when women that, I've dated in the past, they say, like, you'll grow up someday. You're just in this phase, like you'll grow up someday, or like you'll wake up from the party lifestyle as if I'm spending all my time partying and drinking because I'm single. It annoys me as well. But the other bit, the bit that niggles is like, where are the role models of really, really strong, intelligent, grounded men who decided not to get married and have a family? And I'll let you address Ultrasound's question. with that slight sweetening?
Well, a couple of things. Back to my previous point, I do want to add, though, if you have a girl who's nice to you, who's actually kind, has that genuine desire, don't be a dick about it and say, oh, I don't want to commit, so go away. No. You know what? Be honest with her, saying, hey, I like you being here, but I'm not committing to you. If you're fine with that, we're going to keep going. Because I've been dumb in the past, where something could have been easily taken care of with that. No, instead I said, I don't want to commit. And that wasn't that very bright. Second, will you have less options when you're single at 50? Ask Troy Francis. But in all seriousness, it really depends on where you are. The sexual marketplace is geographical. I know we're dealing with a global sexual marketplace right now because of Instagram and things like that, but not everybody's a billionaire, millionaire who can fly chicks over. So for me, I take that with a grain of salt. I know it's there, but I also know it's still geographical. Single in your 50s, mate, like I said to Sam before, working out is not something you just do once, squat 315 and be done with it. You squat your entire damn life as soon as you pick up that bar. Weightlifting and things like that is a life habit, like brushing your teeth. At least that's what it should be. That's what it is now for me. So less options when you're 50 is all up to you, in all honesty. Who's that guy? What's his name? Come on. What's his name? Mel Gibson. The bloke's 60, something like that. By God, have you seen him?
No, not recently.
Effing Giga Chad. Really? He looks yoked.
Coming out the closet of Jack and Mel Gibson.
Funny you should mention that about male role models, by the way. I know you're pulling my leg, but there is this stigma of men complimenting other men. Oh, you must be gay. 100%. It's like, no, I acknowledge the fact that certain men at their age still look freaking effing good. And I see that as a something to strive towards. Now, I do believe you should compare yourself to who you were yesterday, but that doesn't mean you can take someone his accomplishments as an example to strive towards. You shouldn't compare yourself, but you should see it as a sort of aim. Yeah. Because there are still plenty of guys out there who are in their 50s, still look jacked as hell. Now, for the single guys, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is one of them. He doesn't even have girlfriends older than 25. I mean, by God, somebody actually put that in a graph.
No, it's a very entertaining graph. It's a very entertaining graph, isn't it?
It is.
Let me play. I want to push this question. Right? Will you have less options when you're? Well, I want to push it, and I want to get to something that I'm interested in. Again, selfishly.
Oh, that's okay.
I try to live my life in a way. I try to think about the decisions I make in terms of mitigating future regrets. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think of it as like, which decision that I make now will I regret less in the future? How do I come to the end of my life and live a life with fewest possible regrets and most satisfaction with the decisions I made? Do you think, let's say, single out the question, but a man in his 50s without his own family, and I don't necessarily mean family unit, but let's say a child to take on his legacy, to carry through his ideas, to inherit his education as a father figure, and a wife. Again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Do you think being single and without children, without a woman, let's say not necessarily a wife, but a woman that supports and gets on, do you think that man single in his 50s can be without regret, let's say? Do you think he can get there and say, no, it's okay that I don't have children, I haven't got anyone to inherit my legacy, I haven't got my I'm explaining this very poorly.
No, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Difficult. Will he regret not leaving a physical manifestation of his DNA behind to give on to his wisdom, so to say?
Yes, and just to love, to really truly love and want to do well, and whom he would sacrifice his own life for, right? He would die in a second for the life of his child. So such things like this. Do you think older men who don't have this think, God, like, what's it all about now?
Well, that would mean unconditional love is exclusive to children. And I know for a fact that in men, that is not exclusive to children, nor for a wife. I have a best friend who I swear to God, if anyone dares to touch him, will die.
Yeah,
And I'm very serious about that. I will move heaven and earth if something happens to him.
yeah.
So no, if he did it right. Speaking about legacy, let's say I get a kid. He's not getting my podcast. He's not getting my narrations. I worked for that. I mean, I'll show him the ropes how to narrate if he wants to do it. Chances are he doesn't. He wants to do his own thing, because I think it's very selfish for a father to expect a child to do something, because in my eyes, a child is still his own individual who,
100%.
of course, should be guided. But this whole, oh, this is my legacy. Hell no. I put you on the earth and I will take care of you until you can do it yourself. I'll show you the ropes of the needs. But after that, you have my blessing to make the best of it, of what you want. This whole
100%.
my children will carry on my legacy, I find that so selfish. It's like more people should be more self-centered when it comes to kids, in all honesty, because a child is not your plaything. It is not something you can bestow upon putting forth your name. I think that's very selfish to expect from an individual.
Yeah.
And my legacy is this, what I'm doing right now, this podcast, people listening to me and to you, the narrations I do, those will stand the test of time. It's like, oh, who's this Jack Napier fella? Oh, he did a show with Rob Says called Red Evening. He has his YouTube channel. He narrated for Troy Francis and Carl from Black Label Logic. Sam has his own YouTube channel. He helped thousands of guys to surpass approach anxiety. He helped guys to get back into dating.
Yeah.
That's an actual physical representation of legacy.
Here's where you've said something that I'm happy you've said, because I don't really hear it talked about enough in this context, which is friendships, right? In my experience, men who have really, really solid, loving friendships, where the guy is a brother, and it is no two ways about it. You love that person deeply. When men have those friendships, in my experience, because I have a group of friends who share this, they feel less need to seek that love from a woman, because their cup is full, their emotional cup is full. When I see guys who have friendships which are friendships of convenience and friendships of play only, it is those normally who feel this emptiness that they can only fill with love. And for them, it can only come from a woman. So I think that you're onto something with the deep friendship in terms of filling that emotional cup. So on the woman front, I'm there with you. I believe that a man can fill his emotional cup, his love, with really, really brotherly, close friendships with other men, and not need that from one woman. The jury for me with a child is still out. And no, I agree with you about the legacy. You should never be forcing what you did in your life on your child. He is his own person in the same way that you always wished that you would be. However, in terms of the feeling of what is there left for me when I'm 55, 60 years old, without the presence of offspring, I don't necessarily think that it should be the case. But I wonder if we're evolutionarily wired so that without that offspring, it's almost difficult to feel like we've still got a strong, maybe not purpose, because you can still be continuing your legacy, right? You might be doing anyone might be doing incredible things, but without a child, I wonder if you feel a sense of loneliness or missed opportunity. I'm curious about this, and the jury's out for me.
I think that's a deep question. I think that truly depends on how the man has filled in his life, how he decorated his life. Because family isn't the only loving thing out there. Believe me, I had a family and that was far from loving. So it is trying, a lot of people are trying to exclude things from each other. What you just mentioned is a good one. A certain emptiness, and people think a woman can fill that. Now, unfortunately, there are also a lot of women who think the same. I feel empty with my business degree and my six-figure income, but I froze my eggs and they're now worth nothing. Though, so they marry out of loneliness instead out of love.
Yeah.
And that's why I recommend the Book of Numbers by Aaron Clarey. Like, we all know divorce percentage is about 50% in the West, something like that, maybe even more. But then you get to the statistic of actual marriages being happy of the remaining 50. And that is a very bleak,
it's a
dark
really
statistic. So what I think is, even if you stay single for that long, it really depends on how you manage your life. Because, I mean, at a certain point, I'm going to stay single, but I don't want to be, let's say, quote unquote, lonely. Well, if you've done it right, you have time in the world to build up bonds, tribes, so to say, to make sure you have each other's back. Excluding yourself from the marriage life doesn't mean excluding yourself from being with someone, so to say. No, we're coming out of the closet here, but
no, I agree.
It's funny though. Did you know the oldest story ever written, Gilgamesh, is about a bromance?
Yeah.
I
didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, well, it says it all there, right? Like, the oldest story ever written is about a bromance. One guy, I can't remember the name, and no, it's not Gilgamesh. I think the story is called Gilgamesh. I don't know how the characters are called, but it's about this one guy who just is looking for an opponent to meet him in battle, to become his equal.
Yeah.
And he finally meets him. And from that battle comes this great bromance. But then he dies. And he ends up walking the planet looking back, or looking for him, because he misses him so much because of the bond they created.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty effing awesome, but also very exclusive, in my experience, to male friendships because of those experiences you shared in doing things.
No,
and that's
I
why
agree
it's such a horrible social narrative where it's like, oh, are you too gay? Oh, piss off. Seriously, like, I feel pity for you that you do not have the capability of understanding such deep friendships with other people.
No, I agree. And I think it's a shame that society doesn't encourage that to the same extent, or people don't. We're still encouraged into these, get married, right, with someone you like, If you described one of your friends as someone you like, that means fucking nothing, right? Like, getting married with, like, a stable, like, settle down with a nice person. It's like, why we're encouraged to do that and not to build brotherly love, not to have friendships where the blood is unimportant, right? Like, blood doesn't matter anymore. Like, you would die for that person, and they for you, and you'd go down. It's love, right? It's pure love. That's not talked about, right? And guys looking to fill this well, they say, I want to get a girlfriend, I'm lonely. It's, where are your friends, and why are they not enough?
Mm-hmm. Like, go out there, do things. Coming back to the beginning of this podcast, if you need women as your life purpose, you have bigger problems. Go join a gym, a martial arts, Boy Scouts for all I care. What's it called? Go wall climbing. There is so much to do when it comes to physical activity to actually build something up with people, which will make you a better man in and of itself, and will help you on your way to said goal, purpose, at least a well-rounded life.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to do both of those things at the same time, the gym is the fucking space, man. If you've got a good friend who can go and be your like wingman in the gym or your gym buddy, not like I genuinely, this sounds ridiculous, but some of the best experiences of my life, right? And I've traveled the world, like I've done some crazy shit. Some of the most like clear memories I like doing a really good gym session. I used to live in East London in Hackney, and we went to like this kind of prison style gym. Like there were definitely ex-cons.
Nice.
Yeah, there were definitely ex-cons there. They were boxing upstairs. There was always a couple of fucking rough geezers boxing upstairs, no air conditioning, but really good quality equipment because everyone gave a shit, right? There were boxers. It was you know, it was pretty hood to some extent. It's called Muscleworks Gym in Stoke Newington, just north of Dalston, actually.
Nice.
For anyone that's interested. But the community there, man, like I could come in as like this 23-year-old private school educated white boy to a gym with like ex-cons in there and like security guards and probably some gangsters as well. And they would get me on the pads. They'd be like, yo, gringo, come here, get on the pads. Like I have a Brazilian friend there. So get on the pads. And they would just, without expecting money or anything, they would get you involved. You could get involved. And then you'd sit in this dank little shed sauna, tiny little shed sauna with a couple of gangsters butt naked. Like, but it was amazing. And some of my best experiences is going into that community with a really good friend of mine and bossing out a workout, right? You do a good set, you push him, you motivate him, you give skin, you give skin, you get them going, you come out of there full of testosterone, sun shining. Like honestly, some of my best memories from life are like a good gym session with a good friend.
You're finally able to bench 90 kilos, and the first thing you hear is, well, 10 more kilos, and then you're finally a man.
Yeah. It's amazing though, man. Like that, doing physical activity, as you said, the fighting, right? And there's more examples of that in the world of martial arts as well. But doing physical activity that require testosterone, that require energy, that require masculinity, doing that with a friend, you guys bond. Like I've done it with friends where we don't have close physical relationships. We're really close friends, but it's not the one that you go up and you hug and you kiss on the head and say, I love you when you leave, right? Which I do with some of my friends. But you go to the gym and all of a sudden you are hugging after a good set, right? Like it brings you together. The physical activity is like, it's what's it called? It's like a virus. It spreads out into your life. You do a physical activity together, you become more physical with those people you do it with. So I advise guys to go on dates with girls where they're doing an activity, right? If you go fucking hiking with a woman, you're going to be holding her arm and pulling her up. If you're the guy that says, when should I hold her hand? I don't know when she's giving me a sign to kiss her. Go climbing with her. Go on a hike with her, right? If you go on a hike with her, you're going to be pulling her up by the arm. You're going to be pushing her ass up a steep slope. You're going to get to the top kind of sweaty and full of emotion and testosterone. And guess what happens on that quiet rock by the waterfall when no one's around, right? Like the best way to get to know a girl is to do a physical activity with them. And the best way to consolidate a friendship with a guy is to do the same.
That even goes back to the book of Puck, where it's like, always do action dates. I mean, I even do that when I walk down the street, when it's a busy road, and I just grab her hand like, oh, let's go. And then, of course, after that, I'll let go. But then it has been established that that is possible. And then, or she initiates physical contact again, or she doesn't, but at least it's been established. You want to wrap up soon, by the way?
Yeah, man, I'm very aware of your time. So I know we're coming up on it. The final thing I just want to throw at you, just to cap this all off and to tie up the loose ends. Have you got 5 minutes, Jack?
5, yeah.
Okay. We'll keep it quick. We'll keep it to 3. Should authenticity be a focus in my life, or should it just be a side effect, right? How do you think about authenticity and being real, right? For me, just very quick, these podcasts and these videos, I notice obviously that people are engaged and people like them when it's all hands on, all cards on the table. You're not hiding anything. You're being real. How do you think about authenticity and realness?
I've been told that I'm very authentic, but it's not something I focus on. I have a bit of a mindset where it's like, take it or leave it. This is me. I'm not very professional in my doing, but I am doing it. because that's the way to get there. I don't care how, I care that. And you're either in or you're in the way. And well, that's how I got here. And apparently that's authentic, but it's just something that works for me. Like the most direct way is the most, the highest return on investment. And people will find out very quickly when you're bullshitting them. They might not do in the beginning, but they will. This is why I never lead with wealth or whatever, or fancy trinkets. I mean, now it's the joke in my chat. It's like, oh, Jack just lives in a box. I just roll with it. Like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I live in a box. Because there's been some hateful things going on in this sphere where people make videos about each other. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. You've got a bigger dick than I do. Fine. You've got more money than I do, and you bang hotter chicks than I do. Have fun with it. I really could not care less. Because you're not me. I'm not you. And I want to do my own damn thing. And if people like my own damn thing, they are very welcome. And if they don't, hey, you know what? It's a free world. I'm not gonna convince you or anything. I don't need to. I don't want to. Because as soon as I feel a need or want to convince you, it's already over. Same thing with girls. Genuine desire. As soon as you have to negotiate getting her number, walk away. Just chalk it up to experience, walk away. So I don't know if that's authenticity.
That's a good answer, man. That's a good answer. I agree with that. I think that is authenticity, right? And I think people know when they've done or said or been in any way inauthentic. And I think everyone's prone to slips, lapses of the mind, slips. But I think to recognize when you're not being as honest as you can be and as authentic as you can be is important. Jack, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. It really has. Like it's been long overdue. I enjoyed our conversation last time, and I'm really happy we've done this. So whenever you want to catch up, man, maybe we can do one on your channel as well. Whatever you want to do, let's go. I'm ready to go for round 2. And thank you for being present in the sphere, man. I really enjoy listening to what you have to say, and your wisdom is clear and evident.
I appreciate that, Sam. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this conversation. Really did.
So did I, brother.
I think they did too outside.
Yeah, they're honking their horns for us, man.
Nice.
All right, brother. Well, I'll talk to you soon, and thanks everyone for watching. Jack, let me plug you quickly. Like, how would you like me to plug all your stuff?
The link to my channel is in the chat, and for people wondering about my narrations, I have a link to that as well. This is the Gendernomics audiobook bundle. That is 2 audiobooks, long enough. I don't know the exact amount of hours, but if you're interested in that, both of them are now in the chat.
Awesome. Jack, I'm going to continue on just solo for my audience for a bit. It says kick from studio. That seems a little bit aggressive. I don't want to kick you from the studio, but if I do that, does that mean... Right, so if I kick you, there's nothing aggressive there, right?
No, I can leave.
We came out the closet together.
We had our bonding.
So I'm going to kick you out now, Jack, but it's been a real pleasure, man. Thank you.
See you soon, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Bye, brother. Bye. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to try and quickly go over some of the questions maybe that Jack and I didn't cover because we got lost in each other's bromance. If you have any final questions, I'm going to go for like another 10 minutes or something. Please get them to me. I think just on the authenticity, I like Jack's answer. For me, authenticity is something that I think about in my life in every sphere, because recently I've had this strange mental trigger where if I do something inauthentic, if I complain about someone, who I know or don't know, if I do anything that is in any way inauthentic, I get an instant reminder, an instant trigger that you've just done something inauthentic, and I feel it, and then I have to address it. And so this got me thinking about authenticity. And I think if you are someone that you realize that sometimes, and we all make mistakes, but if you realize that you are someone who lies or sometimes, or complains about other people behind their back, or does anything that isn't true to you, act a certain way in front of people that isn't isn't true to you. It can be in front of women. We sometimes use what I call crutches, right? We say things that we say to every woman because it usually gets a laugh response. And even in those situations, sometimes you feel like they laugh and you feel like, oh God, what am I doing? Right? I'm saying the same things I always say, even though it's doing well. It's not real right now. It kind of feels robotic. I think if you are someone like that, like I have been, I think authenticity should be a focus, because just like approach anxiety, the more you focus on something, the more it grows. The more you focus on anxiety, the more that anxiety grows. The more you focus on authenticity, the clearer it's going to be when you're being inauthentic. And I think that's important. I think it's important to recognize and remedy when we're acting in a way that we don't believe to be the way that we would want ourselves to act. And Hackney is a proper tough inner city area. It's a great community though, very diverse. It's the London tourist brochure doesn't show. Yeah, it is, man. I think it should. I love Hackney. I'm going to go back there. I'm going to be back in London, guys, on June the 22nd or 23rd. And I think I'm going to go back to Hackney because I miss it. I love the weird things. The closest that London comes to Brazil of just seeing all manner of strange things happening on the streets. Interesting people, cool bars, cool clubs, great gyms, really nice community. So guys, any other questions? Anything that you want to hear from me? Anything you want to know? I'm going to be working basically all the time, June, July, August, back in London. The first 4 weekends are booked up now. So please get in contact with me at the Calendly link, which I always post. It will be in the YouTube description, but I'll post it here as well, because I think everyone can do with you know, a bit of help. Everyone can do with a talk about your situation. It's completely free, and I basically just like giving without expectation of receiving anything. Maybe selfishly, because I believe that everything does come back around. So if you have any questions, if you want to talk, if you want to get my help in London from June the 22nd, or until then, my help in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, where life is amazing, then just get to me on the Calendly link and we can talk. Whatever your situation, I'm happy to do that. All right. You're welcome, man. You're welcome, Ultrasound. That was a pleasure. That was my pleasure. I enjoyed it as well. He's a good guy. I've only talked to Jack once before, but I think we'll be doing it again. I like the idea of staying out of all the drama as well. When you see other people in your industry, you know, bitching and whining about each other. I think one thing that Tusk, me and Tusk together have sort of realized and focused on is that everyone's an associate and not a competitor. Everyone in your industry, everyone is an opportunity for the two of you to build something stronger, right? You could easily look, if you're doing videos like these, you could easily look at someone like Jack as a competitor, right? Someone that's taking your audience, but it's such a stupid mindset, because if the two of you collaborate, you double your audience size. And it's the same with the social networking, right? It's the same when you're thinking, oh no, this guy's not cool enough to come in our group. Like maybe he's not going to get on with the other guys. Throw him in and see. Nothing bad's going to happen, right? Most cases, the guy that you're not sure about will step up to the mark. Worst case scenario, doesn't say anything because he realizes that it's not good for him. So I think we should be giving people these opportunities. We should be trusting in people and giving them the best opportunities to show their best side whenever we have the chance. I was watching a podcast about depression, and they're saying that it is a lie, but you can be depressed. Take your shit together and move on. I was shocked that sounds true. Any point of view about this? Look, I think that sometimes diagnosing a problem that we have, sadness, some people are deeply depressed and there's some neurochemical reasons behind that. But I think the tendency is that if you're feeling sad, to call it depression. If you're feeling lonely, you call yourself a lonely person. I am lonely, not I am feeling lonely. And with something like depression, I think for some people, it can be an easy way to justify what we want to be doing. But because we're feeling sad, we're not doing. And I have every sympathy. I have had some run-ins with myself with being extremely unhappy for extended periods of time, feelings of that nothing has a point, nothing has any value, and there's not much point in any of this or in going on. I've had some rather longer run-ins with this myself, and I've got some very close friends of mine who are, who've lost their lives to depression. So I'm gonna say that first, but I also think that we as men particularly can be very quick to justify our lack of attention on what needs to be done, and with a word like depression banded around, it can be easy to say I'm depressed and that is why I'm not achieving what I want to achieve, or that is why I have an excuse to be sad or insular. Whereas, and what this does is it brings the emotional response, the support, the love, which is also important. However, this is my belief. What men do not need when they're facing difficulties is sympathy and a large emotional response, sympathetic response. What they need is a motivational response. What they need is purpose and significance and meaning, something to follow, something to pursue, something to win, something to chase. The love is important, of course, but love from strangers isn't going to solve your sadness. What's required if you're feeling sad or if you're feeling depressed is some sense of purpose that supersedes the sadness of that feeling, that gives you a motivation beyond it, that tells you, right, take this into your own hands, let's figure this out. And even if I'm sad for the rest of my life, let me act in sadness. Let me act in desperation. Let me keep going even though I'm feeling like this. So I don't think, even if someone is depressed, necessarily that they should be too focused on it, because the idea will grow and it will become all consuming. And instead, we should be looking for the motivation required to get us out of it. Society has made us comfortable with depression. I don't know if society has made us comfortable with it. I think society's gone a long way to understanding and to giving more of the attention that is owed to people who are living in a first world country and deeply, deeply unhappy, right? It's not trivial. It's not trivial at all to be, people say, oh yeah, but this classic, rich guy, no problems, living in an amazing country with a good family. What right does he have to be sad? Well, he is sad and he doesn't want to be sad. So he needs help, right? We shouldn't be thinking about this in terms of wealth categories or how well someone's doing, right? If there's someone who's thriving and happy in a very poor area or with a very typically difficult background, you can give him your sympathy, but he doesn't need it. He's okay. He's happy. And if you have someone from a great family with a great friends, and women are attracted to them, and they can make money, and they're unhappy, then maybe they shouldn't typically, it doesn't seem to be as much reason to give them sympathy, but they're sad. And so they do deserve it and they do need it. And that's, I think, how we should think about it, right? However, I think it's also important to acknowledge that sympathy is not going to solve a man's depression. Love is not even going to solve a man's depression. Purpose can solve most feelings of desperation, meaninglessness, and sadness. And to accept that we are born as human men to be dissatisfied with our lives and not to be constantly seeking through self-development a way to remedy our sadness and our loneliness that we feel sometimes. Instead, to say, I am born to be damned if I do and damned if I don't. I am born to feel lacking the emotional connection when I'm not in a relationship, knowing that there could be this deep connection that I have with one woman, this warmth, this comfort, this love, this reliability, knowing that I am missing that when I'm single, and knowing that that is going to cause me some level of sadness, and yet also knowing that if I were in that relationship, I'm damned because I'm not free to explore and to meet and to connect with whomever I want and act with them how I want. Right? I'm not free to keep seeking by myself. I have this responsibility now to this person for as long as I'm in the relationship, for as long as I'm in the relationship. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And instead of saying, well, what self-help book? Maybe if I just read Psycho-Cybernetics, maybe that one. will cure my problems. Maybe if I just meditate enough, I'm not going to face any sense of conflict or difficulty in my life. It's not true. You're always going to do it. You are born, and every fiber in your body is programmed to be dissatisfied, because how would we successfully reproduce our genes? How would our genes reproduce themselves if we were satisfied? We are born to be reaching, and to understand this goes the whole way to remedying it in whatever way you can. There is no cure for it. There is just to accept it and to move with it and to act through it. Please do more YouTube live streams. I will. Do you guys want to see, I'm going to end this now, but I just want to ask this question. Do you guys want to see more interviews with people, or do you like the ones where I riff solo and give you guys, just answer your guys' questions? What is it that you want to see more of in the future? I'll quickly answer Joe's question. Do you think authenticity is the opposite of living in fear? No, I don't think it's necessarily the opposite, but I think it's the opposite of living with a sense of self-hatred. Right? I think self-hatred is the opposite of authenticity, because I think very insidiously and very subtly, when you do something inauthentic, you hate yourself for it. Whether that is saying the same thing to every girl, like it's the most obvious example for guys that are approaching women. Something works and you keep saying it. And sometimes when you say it the third or fourth time in a day or a week, you get the sense of, oh God, what am I doing? What am I doing? Even though it works. And that, I think, is the opposite of authenticity. Where in that moment, it might be better to say nothing and to be quiet and to have the girl become uncomfortable or awkward because you're not saying anything. But you'll figure it out. You'll learn. You'll figure out something else to say. You'll learn. You'll keep your mind active and creative, and you won't be bullshitting yourself and other people. So authenticity, for me, is something that if it doesn't come naturally to you, or it's something that you're not aware of, you should focus on. I think it's important to focus on it, because it can be an extremely good compass for how you should be acting throughout your day and what you should be doing. I enjoyed this, guys. I enjoyed this live stream as well, so I will do more of them. And I love that this is going out everywhere. As I said, please find my Calendly link in the link below this video on Facebook and on YouTube. And I'm happy to talk to you for free. Thanks a lot, guys. Sam, out.